Good morning, everybody. It's Kula Dula from RawStocks. We have another edition of our pre-market prep. And today, is it a sell-off? Is it going to chop? Is it going to rocket? We're going to cover it all. Stick with us, and we'll knock into the details. Quick shout out to our sponsors, Black Box Stocks and GammaEdge. Without those guys, we would not be able to provide this to you every single day for free. So thank those guys by visiting the links in the bio, supporting them. You too can have access to all the tools that I use. Okay, so OHLC here, virtually 6,700, 6692, 6656, and 6645. Those are all areas you need to monitor as we look into the data. So one thing I want to talk about today real quick before we dive into everything. Tomorrow we have our final print of the GDP. I think it's important to know that that's coming up tomorrow, as well as unemployment claims. I have to imagine that unemployment claims will tick up. And I have to imagine, in my opinion, that this final GDP of the quarter probably looks good. And, you know, I think there's something to be said about front loading. And I think we could see that with the imports over the month of July, virtually, July and August. I think it's something that you need to understand that that's probably what's driving the GDP on this print. But I'd be very curious to see what the next GDP print looks like. But who knows? We'll see. Okay, so that's tomorrow. Take note that that can move the market quite a bit. And let's look at this. So yesterday we had a pretty steep sell-off. You can see that this thing virtually capped out towards that 6,700 level. We were watching yesterday. We talked about it being the pivot from 6,700 to 6,695. It cracked below that. We saw a pullback all the way back towards this consolidation and this break here. You can see that this was a pretty strong little level here. We came down in towards that 6650 level and ultimately sat on it before making a little bit of a run at the end of the day. Now we're bouncing and we're at 6670. So we're right in this range right here. And you're going to find the importance of that when I show you the day trading chart. Okay. Let's pull the data over. So full complex here, virtually looking at a 6670 transitional level here. So your positive transition right here at 6670, upwards target at 6700. No overhead shorts or anything like that in the full complex. This still means everything looks peachy. We talked about this in the past where we saw large chunks taken off into that 6,700 level. And I think that's kind of what we saw yesterday. A little bit of profit taking. Maybe it was a little scary, but I think a big part of it was that NVIDIA was extremely overextended, and a lot of things went with it. But at this point, a little bit of a stability, a little bit of deltas, premium has been burned off. Now was that a correction for the move? That's what we're looking at today. All right. So full complex, like I said, over the top of 6670 looks good to test 6700 on the full complex. We remain call dominated. Now on the 0 day that flips, we have a put dominated gamma condition. So this means there are some overhead shorts. This means there's more exposure to the downside than there is to the upside. A decent amount of contracts today, so nothing where low volume seems to be an issue. So looking at where we're at here, there's going to be, as we open, there's going to be some negative pressure. With that being said, that doesn't mean that we won't change. But it is something that we need to look at. 6650, which is virtually the low we were looking at yesterday, right in this zone is the downside. The upside is 66.90. So the pivot here is between our transitional areas at 6,700, or upside 6,900, and the downside is 6,650. We're balanced right in the middle. Flip this over. You're going to see that 66. So we have virtually the same move to the upside, same move to the downside, right as we open at probably at 66.70. You can see right here, this is virtually, we're opening up, we're right here. Okay. So it's going to see how we treat 66.70, if that's going to be a breakout towards the upside, or if this thing is going to try to break down, retest 66.50, or does this thing want to spike volatility and press us back down in towards this range, towards this low at 66.20, or even down to 6600. My theory going into our GDP is that they wanted to find, like, come down to the median towards 6600. The print that I'm seeing today doesn't necessarily say that. I will find, if we do get a rejection off that 6670 area, that I will probably look to go short and see if this thing wants to press through 6650. But I think it's smart to lock up some into, say, that 6655 area and down towards 6650 if it does press down that low. We still remain call dominated, like I said, over the top. If we come down to this range, all we're really entering is a little bit of a chop zone. It's not, let's just say it like this, it is not something where it's very directional today, but I do want to look at this as we pushed up. This would be your confirmation, and then we're getting distribution to the upside. So over 66.70, I'm okay with getting long towards, potentially opening a swing for 6,700, or even getting the extension towards, say, like that 6740 zone that we were looking at. I don't think there's anything wrong with looking for that type of expansion. If you look at like a standard deviation here, 6754 virtually, right? So that's kind of what you're looking at there. 6750 area would be the probably next target to the upside. All right, overnight low at 6654, 6656, excuse me, 6655. My goodness, can't talk today. To me, I would love to buy calls down in this zone and see if we want to recover. But I like the volume and momentum showing a push over 6670 for that move up towards 6690 more than anything. Okay. The overlay here that you're going to see on the GEX profile is going to be the full complex, and I will overlay these with 0 day. That's what I'm going to try to do now. Okay, so as we move into NVIDIA here, let me turn this off. I was moving to NVIDIA. Let me pull the data on this real quick. You can see nothing's changed. Very call dominated. That was just a flash in the pan. And 180 still remains the final boss, right? So is this going to be where we can press over the top 180? To me, it would make sense that that would be the case, but that is a huge wall. You can see that virtually 180 remains the upside here in regards to the wall on the 1 week, 0 week, whatever. And then you can see on the full complex, 180 is again our ceiling. So is this just, like I said, like a flash in the pan, or will we see some type of extension past this? Personally, I think that that's hard to judge right now. But I do know that if you do get over the top of 180, or if we stay over the top of 175, it's probably more likely than falling down towards 170 than it is, or excuse me, it is more likely to bounce than it is to fall down below 170 based on the data we're seeing. Okay. So it's just a matter of time. I believe this is just some consolidation, but this may be the very may be the pullback before the launch. So over the top of 180, you get really excited for this at this point. Now that we've came back and done this pullback, you would look for the likes of a potential 185 squeeze or further. Okay. I think it's something that you need to take note on for sure. But under 180, if you see a rejection at 180, I don't have an issue with you shorting this back down towards, say, 175. But you do need to see a high level of rejection off of this area to have that type of confidence. Excuse me. All right. Tesla, the beloved Tesla. All right, so this one's kind of tricky for me. You know, looking at it, it is pretty clear that there's a line in the sand at at 435 here. You can see the line in the sand for the transitional area that can push us towards 150. You can see it on the charts. 135 is a massive area. So what do we do at this point? So I'm not interested in buying this and towards that, unless we're towards that low 410 to 400 level, unless we get a break over the top of 435. Okay. You'd have to get a break over the top of 435 for this thing to run up towards 450. There's nothing wrong with, say, buying a pullback if you believe in this thing long term, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about trading this thing. There's a clear level here between 433.5 and 435. When you see levels like this, you have to know and respect these levels. Okay. So keep an eye on 435 to potentially be a rejection level. Again, same type of thing that we're seeing with SPY, a breakout confirmation potential, right, on this break here. Is this something where we see a bounce towards 435, break through 45, and get the extension back towards 450? There's definite potential there. Okay, we talked about this this resistance here numerous times, where we're going to see that 450, 400 resistance, and we got that. Okay, in regards to the daily 4, we closed on it, and is this something that we're going to find ourselves bouncing and retracing quickly? Well, there's an absolute chance of that. Okay, absolute chance. I think you need to watch that 435 zone as a transitional piece for this to potentially push up towards 450 and potentially higher on NVIDIA, or on Tesla, excuse me. The full complex still has the upwards target of 500. Okay, so break above 450. Yeah, we're probably heading up towards 500. I think you need to take note of some larger areas, some larger liquidity areas like 465 and then also 488. Those are areas you need to watch for potential sellers to sit on. The poor bastard that owns a share at 488.54 has been waiting for this moment for years. And he's just waiting to get the hell out of Tesla. So who knows? He might have bought more. I jest. But this is something that you need to monitor right here. Okay, there's a clear distinction between this thing potentially dropping towards the lows back here at 400, and we're seeing a press over the top of 435, and where you get an expansion from it. As it stands, you're still green light on distribution to the upside because of our close over the daily 4. If we start seeing a breakdown below, I believe 425 is where we're going to start seeing a potential pullback. I have the negative transitional zone here at 415. That pulls us down to that 412 to 410 area, but there is nothing in this zone that I would consider like, yeah, we're dying here at this level. It's more so, I think you do need to watch yesterday's low, which would be about that 425 zone, to be potentially a drop, but there's no clear line in the sand unless you just look at 435 as your short, okay? And you'd be looking for that thing to roll back down as long as we stay under 435. Me personally, based on this, I think that's probably your play. Any move up towards 435, you're shorting it until this thing wants to pull back down towards this 412, 410 area. And at that point, we might see some type of better risk versus reward here. But as it stands, the only thing you're looking for is a break over 435 for this thing to potentially push to 450, or the short at 435 for the move down. Do not play this zone here. You will be trapped. Okay. All right. So that's going to cover it for today on our tickers. Want to do a quick little plug, and that is our $7 7-day trial. Come join us. Come get access to all of our trades. We have 5 analysts that are constantly putting out trades. We go over lives. Virtually we go live about every day, every other week. Okay. So and then I go live in the mornings. If you want access to this before the market opens, make sure you join our free Discord community, get access to this for free. But if you want to see our access to our trades, then make sure you join us at RawStocksLLC.com. That is RawStocksLLC.com, or use the link in the bio. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, do all the fun things. You know what it is. I appreciate you guys. Until tomorrow, we'll catch you later.